Well, as a matter of fact, when Rosa was born, I lived next door. And I was 3 years old. I went to a movie with a girl. He said, "Who was it?" I said, "Rosalynn Smith." And she said, "What did you think about Rosa?" And I said, "She's the one I'm going to marry." So, in one night, I knew that Rosa was the one I wanted to marry. And I asked her to marry me, and she said no. So, Rosa dated every available boy in Sumter County, and finally agreed in May to be my wife. And we were married soon after I left the Navy. We give each other plenty of space. She does her own thing, I do my own thing, and when we find that we have a common interest, then we work together as very close and compatible partners. We try to resolve all our differences every night before we go to sleep. We try to keep communications open between us, which is sometimes difficult. But I think we've learned in the process to kind of adopt the interest of the others, even though that wasn't our natural inclination, if it's convenient. So we now both become avid fly fishers, we're both avid bird watchers, and we learned how to ski together when I was 62 years old, Rosa was 59. And so we have a lot of, we try to find things that are in common. In fact, we've written a separate book about this. We don't interfere in each other's work, and we cooperate when we can.
But I think space is so important, and we had to work at that a little bit. And the other thing is that very early in our marriage, we learned to respect each other. He learned to respect what I could do. I learned to respect what he could do. I was very insecure about what I could do, and he thought I could do anything.
Well, I think we really grew together in common purpose more when I was running up for governor, an elected governor, and serving there, and was campaigning and serving as president, because we realized, maybe more than most predecessors had in both offices, that the First Lady had a major role to play. Rosa was a greater factor in my campaign victory than any other president's wife in history. So Rosa knew as much about the people and the country and its needs and its ambitions than I did.
Almost every day, we would sit on the Truman balcony and talk about what he had done the day, what I had done, and I could say what I thought about what I had heard in the cabinet meeting, what I agreed or disagreed with what they were doing. And he always listened to me. He didn't always react the way I wanted him to, but he always listened to me.
And when I couldn't go to an important mission, say to foreign countries, Rosa would go for me, not my Secretary of State, but Rosa. She went to 7 countries in Latin America to heal wounds down there and to deal with very troubling issues, even including nuclear proliferation and drug trade. Rosa was briefed by my staff, and then she went on her own down there when I was not free to go. So she assumed enormous responsibilities that relate to all aspects of governing America. When we formed the Carter Center, we were, you might say, plowing new ground, because no one had ever done anything like this. So we decided that we would form an organization that would just fill vacuums in the world. We just go and deal with issues that are not addressed by others because they're too difficult or because they're unpleasant. And so that has given us a brand new atmosphere within which we live and an attitude toward life. We used to deal with presidents and kings and prime ministers and foreign ministers. Now we deal with villagers and with individual families throughout the world in 80 different countries. And so this is, you can see it's a totally different perspective, but it's been a much more exciting, much more gratifying to us, much more personal an involvement as we deal with strange diseases and with potential conflicts and with troubled elections and things of this kind. Well, I don't think there's been any doubt that since the White House has been the most gratifying time of our life. Well, usually when we fail, it's a common failure. It's something that both of us have failed to do. If we fail, okay, we just do the best we can, and we learn from that experience. Those failures have been fairly rare at the Carter Center. We've learned and we've continued to progress and grow.
When we lost the White House, as Jimmy said, we were in it together. but it brought us closer together. But we were kind of lost when we got home because we had a lot of life left to live, and what were we going to do? We were both at home all day, every day, which had never happened before. And we had to, that's when we really learned to make space for each other. We've always done things together, like jogging, skiing, bird watching, that kind of thing. One of the worst things we ever did was try to write a book together.
It really endangered our marriage. We almost broke up on that darn book. We agreed on 97% of the time, but the other 3% you can see we didn't agree. And that 3% got to be all possessive. We got so we couldn't even talk to each other. We just write ugly notes back and forth on the computer.
It was awful.
And we were incompatible. Our editor was Peter Osnos, and he came down to Plains and said he asked for permission to be kind of a mediator, and we said okay. So he took all the paragraphs in the book on which we could not agree, and he divided them up 50-50. A lot of the paragraphs, they have an R by it. That's Rosalyn's paragraph, and another bunch of paragraphs have a J by it. But she's still my best editor. When I write almost any book, I've written 28 of them. Rosalynn is the first and best editor I have. But I know that if she doesn't like something I wrote, I can still do the final version. Whereas, and I'm her, I read her books as well.
Yeah.
I was taken aback by what a poor memory Rosalynn had about our early life. Give each other plenty of space, even you're going to be different people. Enjoy the things that you find you can do together, and be flexible in adopting the other person's preferences if we can. And try to resolve your differences, each day.
I think you also have to have respect for your partner.
That's the third thing. Have respect.